Oh, they've muted me.
Good evening to everybody. Welcome to our webinar tonight. Hello, Dr. Mistry. Nice having you again. Thank you very much for the trouble that you have taken to give us one of your excellent webinars again. Thank you to our technical team, Henk and Caitlin, and to all of you who are here. Dr. Mistry, I think you can get started. I just want to mention that all questions and answers must come into the question and answer box down at the bottom of your screen, and we will deal with it after the talk. Dr. Mistry, can I ask you that you will deal with the question and answers afterwards?
Yes, I think that's the best way of doing it, rather at the end.
Yeah, that's going to be the best. And then I will probably send your certificates for you again within the next week. Please let me know if you didn't receive anything. I might just not have recognized the tablet or whatever you've used to link in from. Right, thank you very much, Dr. Mistry. Looking forward to listen to you.
Thanks, Louise. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to join us. It's a pity we can't meet in person as yet, but at least we get to connect. So tonight I've chosen quite an interesting topic, one that is not readily published. There's not a lot of studies or papers on this, but nevertheless, it's an important one. And we all see a lot of ocular surface disease in daily practice, and a lot of them are cosmetic related. I think some of the reasons why this topic doesn't get a lot of attention is because other more sight-threatening conditions tend to take precedence. And I think traditionally the eye care community has been male-dominated, and that landscape has now changed. So there's a lot more females, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about this topic in the future. So let's get straight into it. So in this talk, I'm going to be covering the what, the why, excuse me, the who, the which, the where, the when, and the complications spelled with a W. So I'm going to give you quite a broad overview. There's a lot to discuss, so we're going to move at quite a steady pace. So the use of eye cosmetics dates back to ancient times, and some of the earliest records come from ancient Egypt. So in ancient Egypt, they actually worshipped the sky god Horus, and his right eye came to symbolize power, protection, and health. And so it's no surprise that in ancient Egypt, both men and women would routinely decorate their eyes, and they would use a form of makeup which we now call kohl around the eyelid. So apart from its mystical powers, it also had more practical implications. So it was thought to improve eyesight, it protected against the sun, and it also protected against infections like trachoma. So one of the oldest surviving papers, the Ebers papyrus, actually shows that trachoma was very prominent in ancient Egypt. Now, since then, the practice of eye makeup slowly spread across Africa, Europe, and Asia, and to the West. It was spread by the Romans and by lots of travelers, and especially the Arabs as well. And today, the cosmetic industry is worth billions. Um, in a recent study in the UK, about 82% of females have said that they used makeup in the last 12 months. And about a third of those had said they had used an eye gel and eye cream. And another third of those had used an anti-aging cream. So this gives you an idea of how common cosmetic use is. So what are cosmetics? So the European Commission defines cosmetics as such. Basically, it's any substance or mixture which is intended to be placed in contact with various external parts of the human body, the epidermis, hair system, nails, lips, external genital organs, or with the teeth and the mucous membranes of the oral cavity, with a view to exclusively or mainly cleaning them, perfuming them, changing their appearance or correcting body colors, and or protecting them or keeping them in good health. So the color cosmetics that we find in eye cosmetics only forms a small proportion of this. Based on this definition, you can also see that every single one of us in this audience as well uses some form of cosmetic. And many of you also use eye cosmetics. So the big question is why do we go to such lengths to beautify ourselves? And it basically boils down to this: is the desire to look beautiful and youthful is hardwired into our DNA, and both men and women use various ways to manipulate their looks in order to appear more attractive, whether it be wearing fancy clothes, using makeup, or even the extreme of cosmetic surgery. And feeling confident about one's appearance has an amazing way of improving our mood and our well-being. And so this is one of the main reasons why people use cosmetics. Have a look at some of these pictures of celebrities with their makeup on and off. And I can bet you that every one of us is more attracted to and would desire the cosmetic look over the non-cosmetic look. Now, a similar study was actually done in the UK, and it actually shows us the power that cosmetics have over us. What they did is they took 10 participants, all females, and they took high resolution photos of them in 5 guises: one without makeup, one with eye makeup only, one with face makeup, one with lipstick, and the fifth one is with full eye makeup. And then they asked 100 male and 100 female volunteers to rate these photographs on their level of attractiveness. And the results were as expected. All the participants said that the makeup wearing models were more attractive, but there were very important gender differences. So males rated the foundation and the eye makeup to be most attractive. But listen to this one. Females said that eye makeup alone was most important. And this will explain a lot of why females place so much importance on wearing eye makeup. They also showed that lipstick alone made no difference. So this is very important. So it shows us that we're hardwired to behave in certain ways, and this guides cosmetic use behavior. Now, especially for males, when you look at females going through their makeup routine, it can get very confusing and very technical. So I've simplified it. Basically, there's 3 groups of face makeup, which is made up of your foundation, your eye makeup, and your lipstick. And then there are 3 types of eye makeup, basically, which comprises your mascaras, eyeliners, and eyeshadows. Eyeliner is basically used to shape and accentuate the eyes. Eyeshadows increase the prominence, and it is also used to bring out a person's eye color. Mascara is used to elongate and darken the eyelashes and makes the eyes look larger. So the combination of these 3 makeups can really enhance and bring out a person's eyes and draw attention to the eyes. So here's the science, here's the psychology of why we do this. There's this concept called facial neoteny, and basically it's the retention of childlike features over adult ones, so especially large eyes and full lips. These increase the perception of female facial attractiveness, and females know this, and that's why you saw in that study why females place so much emphasis on eye makeup. Other features which are considered attractive on the face is that even skin tone and facial symmetry. So I'm going to show you some Disney characters, and a graphic artist has basically shown them as they would normally appear. And on one side, they've changed the proportions to normal adult proportions. If you look specifically at the eyes of all these characters, you'll see facial neoteny in play. One important feature is look at some of these eyes. They all have eye makeup on. And kids actually know this. My 4-year-old niece spoke to me the other day on a video call, and she was already using play eye makeup. And you wonder where they get this from. So kids start really young. Now, as eye care practitioners, it's important for us to be aware of the trends in the makeup world, because this will directly influence the complications that you're going to see in your practice. In the past, makeup trends were influenced by your Hollywood stars and your glossy fashion magazines. But in this digital world of ours, your social media platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook play a very important role. In front of you, you have a display of some of the biggest influencers, as they call them, in social media in the makeup world. And you'll notice that 3 of them are actually males. Now, these influencers have millions of followers, mostly teenagers. And what they endorse and the practices that they encourage can sometimes be dangerous, and it's important for us to be aware of these. Here's an example. We all remember the Kylie Jenner lip challenge from a few years ago and how much damage that caused. Well, there was a similar social media trend when it comes to eye cosmetics, and that was using the permanent Sharpie marker to do your eyeliner and your eyebrows. And this can be very dangerous because the chemicals found in these markers are not meant to be used on the skin, and especially not around the eyes. Okay, what about this mask wearing error that we find ourselves in? In the recession of 2008, the lipstick sales went up by about 11%. And the chairman of Estee Lauder called this the lipstick index. And basically it showed that people took pleasure in small luxuries during times of financial crisis. Now that we wear masks, things like lipstick, face makeup, and blush actually get smudged. So people are now placing more emphasis on their eye makeup. And so that lipstick index is out and the mascara effect is in. Okay, another important trend is that the male cosmetic industry is growing exponentially by the day. One only needs to walk through a Clicks or a Discam or a Sorbet Men to actually see the number of products that are now available for men. There are many social media influencers. There's also studies which have said that men are increasingly wearing eye makeup to job interviews. Some very prominent and powerful political leaders are also known to wear makeup. So the French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron is reported to have spent $30,000 in his first 3 months of office on professional makeup practices. So with the growing use of eye makeup, we are definitely going to see more eye-related complications, and I already see them in practice, and I'm sure you've noticed a lot of them as well. A lot of the complications that you're going to see are from cosmetic product migration onto the eye surface. And this can be deliberate from applying the makeup very close to the eye, or it can be inadvertent. So especially older patients who have poor dexterity and end up getting the products in their eye. So bear this in mind that a lot of the complications are from incorrect use of some of these products. So let's look at some of the beasts behind these beauty practices. Most of these conditions you're going to see will fall into the ITDs, so dermatitis, blepharitis, myodermitis, conjunctivitis, keratitis, and your dry eye problems. So let's start with the baddies, the infections. We all know that the eyelid skin and your eyelashes have normal bacterial flora, such as Haemophilus, Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, and Pneumococcus. Now, normally these bacteria are harmless, but if they multiply, they have the potential to cause serious infections. Now, moisture and sebum, dead skin, and waste products can build up on the skin and can then be transferred onto an applicator like a mascara wand or a cosmetic brush. This also facilitates the transfer of these bacteria, and these then inoculate the containers in which these cosmetics are kept, in which they can multiply. A study has shown that mascara containers contain bacteria in 30% of cases by 3 months, and this is in a single user. If there are multiple users, such as where you have these testers on cosmetic counters, the levels of bacteria can be much higher. And so the risk of causing an infection is very high. And infections will usually manifest as a blepharitis, rhodiola, and York lesion. So here's an example of a patient of mine. Have a look at the eyeliner makeup which is applied on the lid margin covering the meibomian gland orifices. We'll talk about this later on. But here's the top lid of that patient with the rhodiola. Also notice the concretion. Here's an example of a patient with the blepharitis. Notice the conjunctival cyst and the eyeliner on the lid margin. Another cause of infection are the Demodex mites. We all know that Demodex mites are commensals and are found in lots of patients, especially as you get older. They enjoy an oil-rich environment, such as your sebaceous glands and your meibomian glands. Lots of cosmetic products contain oils and waxes in them, and these are perfect breeding grounds for this mite here. As you can see, this is an electron microscope view of a Demodex mite. Here's a picture of it burrowing into the base of the lash follicle. Here's a high magnification picture of what that looks like clinically. You can see the tail of the Demodex mite sticking out of that hair follicle. And clinically, this is what you will see. Now, your cosmetic products can get contaminated once an individual consumer uses their products, but it can also get contaminated during manufacturing processes. There's a big problem in certain parts of the world of counterfeit cosmetic products. Because it's such a lucrative industry, criminals eye the cosmetic industry to make a quick buck. But these cosmetics are often produced in suboptimal conditions, and there have been many reported cases of these products containing rat feces, urine, and even arsenic. So here's some examples of what can happen when using infected, contaminated counterfeit products. There's a picture of a sty, and here you can see an individual that had arsenic within the eyeliner product, causing severe dermatitis. So with cosmetic product use, there's also a risk of injury to the eye. Often when I'm driving to work, I'll see females applying their eye makeup using their rearview mirrors. This is a common practice, but it's a really risky practice, and I hope the audience members are not guilty of some of these. You can see that this can easily cause a corneal abrasion, and if the mascara tube is contaminated with bacteria, it can cause a serious bacterial keratitis. So some individuals actually moisten their mascara using tap water, and this can contaminate the product with Pseudomonas, which can cause a serious melting microbial keratitis. So cosmetics are basically a mixture of chemicals, and some of these chemicals can be harmful. As we mentioned, the cosmetics can become contaminated by microbes, and to prevent this, your manufacturers will add preservatives. And the three important preservatives that I'd like you to know about are the formaldehydes, the parabens, and benzalkonium chloride. Let's discuss each of these in more detail. Formaldehydes are known allergens, and when they come into contact with the eye surface, they cause an intense burning, itching, redness, and tearing. You'll never see the word formaldehyde on the ingredient list of your cosmetic products. They're often hidden in the form of these unpronounceable ingredients because these are formaldehyde-donating preservatives. In Europe, the approved levels for formaldehydes in cosmetics is 700 to 2,000 times higher than the level which is toxic to human corneal and conjunctival cells. Parabens are also common preservatives, and we now know that parabens have a weak estrogenic effect, and this can inhibit the function of your meibomian glands. A form of paraben, called methylparaben, has also been shown to be highly toxic to corneal and conjunctival cells, equally toxic as your benzalkonium chloride. Benzalkonium chloride of BAC is the main bad boy in all preservatives. It's still commonly found in a lot of eye drops, and we know that it is toxic to corneal, conjunctival, and your meibomian gland cells. It is also damaging to your goblet cells, and this leads to tear film instability. The permissible levels in Europe are 20,000 times that which is toxic to the human corneal conjunctival cells. Makes you wonder why the same strict standards which are applied to the pharmaceutical industry are not applied to the cosmetic industry. Another common presentation that you'll see in practice is dry eye. And typically what I see in practice is the patient who wears heavy makeup is the one that gets the dry eye problems. So heavy foundations, as you can see in this picture here, will migrate onto the eye surface. And when you see these patients on the slit lamp and you see them blinking, you'll see this product floating in the tear film. These are the patients that are at high risk for developing dry eye problems. These cosmetic products have a tendency to block the meibomian glands and also irritate the eye surface, damaging goblet cells and causing tear flow instability and increasing the evaporation rate of the tears. So that brings us to this important topic of water lining and tight lining. This is a term which you should actually familiarize yourself with. Basically, what it refers to is applying eyeliner on the lid margin on the mucocutaneous junction, in other words, the waterline. So when it's applied to the lower lid, it's called tight lining. Water lining. When it's applied to the top lid, it's called tight lining. But these terms are often used interchangeably. In this example, you can see clearly how the makeup product blocks those meibomian gland orifices. So especially eyeliners, they have waxes and oils and pigments which can easily block these openings, making dry eye problems worse. Here are some examples of water lining in some patients of mine. Look at the makeup product on the lid margin and look at the notching in this patient. Here you see that same lid when it's pulled down. You can see that the notching means drop out of these meibomian glands. This is a very young patient. She's only 32 years old and she has very severe dry eye problems. Same patient, you can see product on the lid margin. Here's another patient of mine. She's chronic dry eye sufferer. You can see makeup eyeliner on the lid margin, water lining that she does. If you pull those lids, looking at the top lid, there's the tight lining. If you pull those lids down, look at the posterior blepharitis in this patient, the cyst, which are signs of chronic inflammation. Same patient showing the chronic blepharitis and dry eye issues. A lot of cosmetic ingredients have glitter or shining particles which are included in them. And these products, when they migrate onto the eye surface, can actually become embedded within the conjunctival tissue of the eyelids. Here are some examples. There you see the refractile body deposited within the conjunctival tissue. Also look at the subconjunctival scarring in this patient. And this is evidence that these foreign bodies actually elicit a chronic inflammatory reaction causing chronic blepharitis and ocular surface disease. Here's another example. These are quite easy to see on a slit lamp. There's some more glistening refractile bodies. Look at the meibomian gland dysfunction. Pigments in cosmetics also have a tendency to deposit themselves deep within the palpebral conjunctiva. Look at this patient here. Can you see the black pigment deposited within the conjunctival tissue? This is an example that you will see in your contact lens wearers. So because the edge of the contact lens rubs against the middle of the lower lid, you'll see the pigment almost tattooed into the conjunctiva in this linear fashion. Here again, you see the chronic blepharitis and the meibomian gland dysfunction plugging of these oil glands. Allergies related to contact with allergens in cosmetic products accounts for about 4% of allergies that we see. And the ingredients that are often implicated in eye allergies are your perfumes, some of the preservatives we mentioned earlier, and nickel. Nickel is a common allergen. This is a patient showing us swelling of the entire lid, and this one swelling of the lid margin tissue. So eyeliners and eyelash products that cause allergies will typically cause localized swelling, whereas skin products applied to the entire lid will cause diffuse swelling. And this kind of gives you a clue as to what product might be the guilty culprit when you're evaluating your patients with allergies. So this is a common one, and this is an all-time favorite, the permanent tattooing of the eyeliner. In medical terms, it's called blepharopigmentation, and there are now several studies to actually show how damaging it is to the meibomian glands on the eyelids. It leads to severe evaporative dry eye and corneal staining and progressive damage to the meibomian glands. So some risk factors for damage to the meibomian glands is tattooing inside the lash line, dense packing of the pigment in tattooing, some harmful chemicals within the inks, excessive needle depth and high impact forces during the procedure. Here's some examples of tattooing gone wrong. Look at the tattooing which is done on the posterior lid margin over the meibomian gland orifices. Here's another example. Look at the plugging and the pigmentation. On top you can see the pigment packing. The same patient develops severe staining of the cornea because of extreme dry eye. Okay, but if there's one cosmetic practice which I actually abhor, it's the one of artificial lashes. So Mother Nature in her wisdom has created an optimal lash to lid ratio. So your eyelashes should be a third of your lid length. And when it's the optimal length, it actually cuts tear film evaporation and debris deposition by half. So very long or very short lashes will definitely lead to dry eye problems and increase your risk of debris getting into your eyes. So when ladies apply false lashes, you can see how this ratio is altered. They put themselves at risk of dry eye, but also the cyanoacrylate glues which are used to attach these lashes are highly toxic and irritating to the eye surface, as you can see in this example. I often see patients who've put on these fake lashes to attend functions and weddings on the weekend, and Monday morning they're sitting in my office with eyes looking like this. So here's an example of a patient that I call the all-in-one. So you can see the eyeliner tattoo with the dense pigment backing. You can see the fake lashes or the false lashes. You can see the crusting and the blepharitis. There's a Demodex mite there. This patient also did waterlining and tight lining. So you can see that these false lashes are hard to clean. So patients avoid rubbing their lashes because they will easily dislodge these false lashes. And so there's often a buildup of harmful bacteria causing blepharitis and eye infections. And they also get very dry eyes. What about heavy metals in cosmetic products? So one of the products which is still used since ancient times in some parts of the world is called coal. And in Hindi, they call it kajal, in Urdu it's called surma. And especially in some Arabic countries, both males and females use this product as an eyeliner. Now, in some parts of India and expats of Indian origin, mothers will put kajal on their child's eyes as a way of protecting them against evil spirits, and also to improve eyesight. So here's a familiar face, and you can see that as a child, I also had some kajal applied to my eyes. So coal is actually made up of a natural lead compound, which is called galena. It also contains some other ingredients such as sulfurs, antimony, carbon, iron, and chromium. The eyelid skin is unique in that it's actually the thinnest skin in the body, and it's also highly absorbent. And so products applied on the lid margin or on the skin of the eyelid are easily absorbed. So the lead in coal will enter the bloodstream, causing anemia, neurotoxicity, and also periocular pigmentation, which is hard to fix. There have been studies which have shown that infants aged between 6 and 16 months that had coal applied regularly had blood levels of lead 62% higher than infants that did not use coal. Similar studies were done on adults in which they had used coal regularly, and they had blood levels of lead 82% higher than normal. So this is highly toxic. They've also shown that some coal which has been produced by um, informal sector in Saudi Arabia contain the harmful chemical cadmium, which is actually found in batteries. And cadmium is highly toxic to the corneal endothelium and also the epithelium. It inhibits epithelial migration. The contact lens wearing cosmetic user is another breed, and it's something that you should know as optometrists and be very aware of. Eyeliners, mascaras, and creams are actually prone to binding to contact lens materials, and these ingredients cannot easily be cleaned off using your multi-purpose cleaning solutions. The lenses which are most prone to being damaged by these ingredients are your RGP lenses and silicone hydrogel lenses. Silicone hydrogel contact lenses have been shown to undergo deformation, changes in the base curve, and spoliation with some of these products. Changes in the shape of the contact lens have been shown to cause increased increased discomfort in these wearers. It also leads to meibomian gland dysfunction and dry eye. What I often see is patients getting these particles trapped underneath their lenses, and these can easily abrade or scratch the cornea and inoculate them with harmful bacteria, causing a corneal ulcer. There was an interesting experiment done in which they took eye makeup remover and swapped it on the skin of the eyelid. And they then tested the tear film and showed that a small proportion of this actually ends up in the eye. And so it again demonstrates that the eyelid skin is highly absorbent. And so these eye makeup removers can easily get onto a contact lens wearer and damage the contact lens. So it's always advisable to tell patients to remove their contact lens at the end of the day before actually removing the eye makeup. What about anti-aging creams and acne treatments? Now, the common ingredient in a lot of these preparations are your retinoids. So these are synthetic vitamin A derivatives, and some trade names are Retin A, Roaccutane, which we all know about, or tretinoin. Now, retinoids are great. They have amazing anti-aging properties. They increase dermal collagen synthesis, decrease degradation of collagen, decrease melanin synthesis, and they increase epidermal proliferation differentiation. All this leads to taking away those wrinkles and fine lines. But the problem arises in our patients that apply these anti-aging creams and acne creams on the eyelid skin. And they apply these before going to bed at night. So these nightly offenders can cause severe meibomian gland damage. We've all seen these patients who are on the Roaccutane treatments coming to us with blepharitis and severe meibomian gland dysfunction. What about Botox? Botox for the crow's feet on the side and the Botox in a jar, which is called argireline, can actually weaken your orbicularis muscle. And especially in your dry eye patients, this will reduce the blink forces and the amount of meibum which is delivered onto the eye surface, making their dry eye extremely bad. Puffy eyelids is a common problem, and patients will use all sorts of weird and wonderful ways to try and get rid of these puffy lids. And one of these dodgy practices is actually using hemorrhoidal cream around the eyelids. So one example is preparation H, which contains phenylephrine, which is a vasoconstrictor. This helps to reduce the puffiness around the lids. Hydrocortisone in some of the forms also reduces inflammation. These are all ocular surface disease offending agents, and you should look out for these. So you would actually wonder what would possess someone to put bum cream around their eyes. And the answer again comes from these influences. So Kim Kardashian's makeup artist has actually made these comments that this is their neat makeup trick, using preparation aids to get rid of bags under the eyes. Cosmetic removers, cleansing face washes, and scrubs. So these cleansers often have surfactants, and they tend to dry out the eyelid skin, which can cause serious eczema. They also can wash away the tear lipid layer, especially if it's used close to the lid margin, and can really exacerbate dry eye. So especially these face washes for people who have oily skins. Look out for these ingredients. These are damaging to the eye surface. Salicylic acid in face scrubs and benzoyl peroxide in your acne face washes. I've seen many patients who use these face scrubs, which have these plastic microbeads. These microbeads can actually get under the eyelid and lodge themselves in the groove in your tarsal plate, and they can abrade the cornea. I've removed quite a few of these. Furthermore, these plastic particles end up contaminating our water sources, and in many countries in the world, these things have been banned, and I think they should be. So what can we do about this as eye care practitioners? There's two ways of approaching it. So either you can tell your patients to stop using their makeup products. Good luck with that, because I was naive enough to do that previously. These patients are not going to listen to you. Most of them will say that they would not step out of their homes without wearing makeup, or they won't let their husband see them without wearing makeup. And so you can see these are deeply ingrained practices, so they are not going to listen to you if you tell them to stop. A better way of approaching it is to tell them to temporarily discontinue it, especially during the active phases of infections or blepharitis. This is more successful. So here's some of the advice that I would like all of you to be discussing with your patients. And this is probably the most important part of the talk. Tell your patients not to apply anti-aging creams or acne creams on the eyelid skin. What is good for the face is not good for the eyes. They should read labels, and they should avoid three main preservatives: formaldehydes, black, and parabens. Dry eye patients should avoid having Botox for crow's feet or using Botox in a jar around the eyelid. Avoid using hemorrhoidal creams around the eye. These ingredients can be damaging. Rather see an ophthalmologist. There are better ways of tackling puffy eyelids. Patients should never share makeup with their friends or family, and teenagers especially are guilty of doing this. This increases the risk of contamination and infections. They should never use permanent markers. The solvents, pigments, and chemicals in these are highly toxic to the eye surface. They should not alter their products using heat, because this again can encourage contamination and microbes to grow within the product. They should not use saliva or tap water to moisten the products, because here again, bacteria will contaminate the product. A big no-no is applying makeup whilst driving a car or Ubering or even walking. In some parts of the world, you can actually get a fine for doing this. Waterlining and tight lining is something that I would like you to discourage all your patients from doing. Lash extensions are horrible and can cause lots of eye problems, and also prevent patients from cleaning their eyelids properly. Eyelid tattooing definitely leads to meibomian gland dysfunction and dry eye problems. All your contact lens wearers who use makeup products should be told this. They should always insert their contact lens before applying makeup, and they should remove the contact lens before removing makeup. They should always wash their hands before doing either of these. In this way, they'll prevent getting product in the eye or under the contact lens and spoiling their contact lenses. They should choose paraben-free high-cling eyeshadows. This means that it is less likely to fall into the eye and cause irritation. Get your patients into the habit of reading the ingredient labels on the products that they use. Just as we should all be reading the ingredients on the foods we consume, we should read labels on the cosmetics that we use. Eyeliner should always be sharpened before use. This way you get rid of any debris or contaminants on the surface. Encourage patients to replace their cosmetics regularly. Many patients are guilty of using their products before the expiry date, and this leads to infections. A lot of products will have these markings, and I think it's a regulation in many countries, especially Europe. So the open jar basically refers to the period after opening. So this means that 24 months after opening a product, they should then discard the product. And the egg timer basically refers to the expiry date. So get your patients to look for these on their cosmetic products and to change their products regularly. Patients should remove their cosmetics around the eyes and on the face thoroughly each day, and they should not use face washes or hand soaps to do this. They should use a product that's designed for removing makeup. They should clean their makeup brushes regularly. A neat trick is to use an alcohol swab to clean eyeliner pencils after you've used them. This cleans away any bacteria and would be ready for use the next time. One of the most important cosmetic practices you can tell all your patients to do is to use a good sunscreen along the face and on the eyelids. The eyelids make up a small bit of the skin mass, but account for almost 10% of non-melanotic skin cancers. And so sun protection is one of the best things that you can encourage your patients to do. So in conclusions, makeup-related eye problems are common, they are growing by the day, but they are all very preventable. There are some good products out there with safe ingredients, and when used correctly, patients can enjoy that good makeup look with a good feeling without any harms or complications. I encourage you to take photos of your patient's eyelids using anterior segment cameras to show them the anatomy and the places where they're going wrong. Start having these conversations with your patients. Give them the advice and education that they need in order to create awareness of good practices. As eye care practitioners, you actually find yourself in a unique position. You can consider yourself as guardians or custodians of eye health, and we should be talking about eye makeup with our patients. And to my male colleagues, don't be shy about discussing cosmetic with your patients. You'll be surprised that you actually know more than they do. Thank you for your attention. I'm going to leave you with these amazing eye makeup artworks, and we'll take some questions now. Okay, so we've got two questions already from Adila. The first one, is it true that tattooing can cause retinal detachment? So there haven't been any cases of eyeliner tattooing causing retinal detachment, but I've seen reports of inadvertent tattooing of the conjunctiva. Eyeball tattooing is a whole different ball game. I've seen severe cases of endophthalmitis or reports of that, but I've never seen any cases of retinal detachment, so I don't think that's a problem. Another question, is there any harm of applying cucumbers on the eyes? No, there's no harm in that, especially if it's a freshly cut cucumber. Okay, Anonymous says, how do I advise a patient on the cons of eyelash extension? So we've gone through that. Basically, first of all, you can discuss that altering the length of the eyelashes is a problem. It will increase the risk of dry eye and getting particles in the eye. Furthermore, it makes it more difficult to wash those lash extensions, so they can easily get demodex and other bacterial products leading to blepharitis. And also the glues which are used in these, once they get into the eye, can cause serious inflammatory complications. A question from Kim, that's a good question. Is baby shampoo useful to clean the lids and the lashes? If not, what would you advise? So in the past, we used to advise patients, especially blepharitis patients, to use baby shampoo, especially on the lid margin. And now we know better. So these surfactants in these shampoos can really irritate the eye surface, and they also disrupt the tear film. So they actually make dry eye problems worse. And so we should not be telling patients to use baby shampoo on their lids. It's better to use eyelid cleansing products or eyelid wipes, which are designed specifically for this purpose. And we all know of these foams and lid wipes that are commercially available.
Doctor, if you scroll down a little bit, we've got some questions from Dina Schaafman. Can you see that?
Yeah, I'm just getting those up.
Okay.
So Dima Schaafman says, do you advise Neviblef or similar for makeup removal? So I probably won't advise these foams for makeup removal. I know there's a lid wipe, which is your Sustain lid wipes, which has, or they do say that it is meant for removing makeups. So you could probably use that. I know that the American Association of Ophthalmologists on their website have said that you can even use Vaseline to remove eye makeups. But what I would suggest is rather use a commercially available eye makeup remover that doesn't have the harmful ingredients and preservatives that we've mentioned, and make sure that they use them on the eyelid skin and not on the lid margins, or avoid getting these products in the eyes themselves. Have you had patients complain that tea tree oil in some products remove the false lashes? No, I don't think the tea tree oil is the culprit for removing the false lashes. False lashes are going to fall off with any form of mechanical cleansing or rubbing, and any soaps for that matter. Tea tree oil is actually good for cleaning the periocular area. It's a natural cleanser, and it has antimicrobial properties against bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Will steaming with eucalyptus oil cause any harm to the eyes, lid margin, and conjunctiva? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. Are there any posters out there showing damage caused by eyeliners? No, I don't think they are. But that is a good idea. Are there any safe eyelash extensions? The big answer is no. Okay. Are there any specific brands of cosmetics that you can recommend which are safe to use? So I do know of some brands, but I'm not going to mention them here. But they are definitely safe products. But what I think you should be teaching your patients is more the principles of how they should choose their products. You cannot choose for them, but you can guide them on their choices. And so the specific guidelines that I gave you towards the end of the talk is what you should be teaching your patients. If you walk through your local discount or clicks, you'll notice that about 30 to 40% of the floor space is dedicated towards cosmetic products. So it's impossible for us to become familiar with all these products and their names. So it's the principles which count. And so, yes, there are definitely safe products out there. And when used correctly, patients can enjoy great looks without the harmful side effects. And is it rather better to have daily contact lenses to protect the cornea while cleansing the eyelid and later discard the lens? Yes. Daily disposable contact lenses are always preferred in any patients with any ocular surface disease. It's the best lens to actually use, but also tell your patients to insert the contact lens first before applying their makeup, so as not to get product into the eye during the process. Waterproof mascara is very difficult to remove. I feel they are dangerous. What is your opinion? Yes, there have been reports that waterproof mascaras can cause eye problems. I don't think all waterproof mascaras are created equally, so I think there are some safer waterproof mascaras and certain brands that make specific removers that are gentle on the eye surface. Should the use of anti-aging eye creams be discouraged as well? If the anti-aging eye cream does contain retinoids, then yes. I do know of certain anti-aging eye creams which do not contain retinoids and contain more natural ingredients or safer products, and these can probably be used by a patient as long as they haven't been shown to be ocular surface offenders. Does olive oil work well to remove eye makeup? I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't encourage that. I don't think it would remove all the product on the eyelid. And last question, many patients arrive at the practice with existing eye infections or damage. How do we treat for immediate relief? So when you have active infections, the best you can actually do is to refer to an ophthalmologist. I think the advice you should give the patient is to stop using all their products and to discard all their products in the meantime until they can see an eye specialist, and to cleanse any product from the eye surface thoroughly in the meantime. But with these cases of infections or severe ocular surface disease, rather refer them as soon as you can.
I see under the chat there are a few questions also. Does a lash lift have same or similar effects? Now, I'm not sure which effects this person is relating to. Maybe she can write it down at the bottom. And Yvette Ransom said, what about these eyelash growth serums containing prostaglandins? What damage, if any, do they cause? And do they affect the IOP?
Okay, that's a very good question. So these over-the-counter eyelash growth serums that contain prostaglandin analogs can have the same eye surface damaging effects as some of your glaucoma drops. So one of the commercially available lash growth serums available in America is called Latisse, and it actually contains Lumigan. And we all know of some of the side effects of these drops. So it can cause periorbitopathy, which is basically pigmentation around the eyelids and the lashes. It can cause orbital fat atrophy with chronic use. So if they contain prostaglandin analogs, then it's best to avoid these. There are some which contain safer natural ingredients, which patients could opt for. Yes, there is a risk that they can affect IOP, especially if the product is getting into the eye with the tear form. And if they use these on a regular basis, yes, these things can lower the intraocular pressure.
Thank you. Last one is Samira just mentioned that the chrysanthi wipes are amazing for makeup removal. So I think this is it, Doctor. I would just like to mention to those who don't know Dr. Mistry, he is in association in practice with Dr. Van Wyk. They have a practice in Bryanston on William Nicol, about 3 robots from the highway, and in Honeydew on the Christian de Wet Drive, opposite the Eagle Canyon Golf Estate, just to give you a marker there. And Dr. Mistry, your special interest is anterior and corneal, but are there any extra interests that you have grown to like over the years?
Well, I think I've gravitated towards the ocular surface diseases or external diseases of the eye. I think it's a big part of private practice for most of us, and especially in the areas where I'm situated, I see a lot of that, and I take a special interest in managing these patients. I think the traditional teachings when you're training of managing some of these patients is very suboptimal, very minimal. I think there's a lot we can do to help patients with these chronic diseases. So yes, I would say ocular surface diseases, external disease of the eye, that's an area which I specialize in.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Right, I think that's it for the evening. If you have any extra questions, you're welcome to send me an email and I will forward it to Dr. Mistry. And then I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone who attended. Thanks, Louise, for
Doctor,
organizing.
and all of you. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.